Hi guys, good evening, welcome to, where are we, the third live session of Becoming Young Again. Such a foundationally important one that absolutely sets the scene for how we unleash Kayakalpa into our life in a way that's going to help us genuinely, discernibly experience kind of more youthful health and more youthful energy. Okay. And that's all things herbal alchemy. Okay, so the previous two sessions have all been about theory, understanding what Kayakalpa says about becoming young again. Yesterday, we had a fundamentally important session with regards to how we actually become young again. What things have to happen in the body, what things need to change in the body for our body to actually reverse aging in our cells, in our organs, in our genes. How do we actually reverse aging? That was the focus of last night's session. Okay, today is about moving on from that and saying, well, how do we actually actualize those mechanisms? They're useless to us if we can't actually harness them. If they're just theory, if they're just science, they're of no value. How do we actually evidentially unleash those in your body, my body, so that we get the benefits that the evidence tells us we can get? And that's the aim of today's session, tomorrow's session, Thursday session, and then the bonus sessions next week as well. A big everyone here is joining. Helen, Nikki, Jonathan, Lisa, Miguel, Sue, Libby. Aloha to you as well, Lexi. Hi everyone. I hope everyone's had a good day. I hope everyone's had a nice, happy, healthy day today. I hope everyone's feeling youthful and fit and well. So, and also before we dive in, a big thank you. I think from the Facebook statistics, we've had more comments. We had a record number of comments on this on this Facebook page today. I think we've had over 100 questions, comments, photos, likes, this, that, and the other. So the more this Facebook page is so integral to the success of this week in terms of providing motivation and inspiration and support and help and all the rest of it. So super grateful for all of the time and effort you're putting into this. It makes it such a different experience from everyone. Hi Leah from Holland. We've got literally people on every corner of the globe here, which is amazing. So tonight is about introducing everyone to the fascinating, wonderful world of Kayakalpic herbal alchemy. What it is, why it works, the evidence behind it, and most importantly, how we actually do it. Okay. And yesterday's session, we spoke about those four fundamental mechanisms. Okay. We spoke about if we are to evidentially reverse the age of our body, four things have to happen. Okay, we have to increase stem cell production. We have to sever chronic inflammation. We have to support telomere health, and we need to rejuvenate the body. Okay, and actually, I've just seen, before I dive in, if everyone here could just give me a barrage of emojis, smiley faces, thumbs up, just to help get this video to the top of the feed, that would be really helpful. So we spoke about those four mechanisms. Okay, those things have to happen. Okay, if we are to genuinely feel younger, if we're to genuinely feel more youthful in our body and mind, those four things have to happen. Okay, if you don't know what that is, then just try and catch up on yesterday's session, because that was all about that. And today we're talking about, like I say, how we actualize those mechanisms. And herbal medicines are, without doubt, the most profound way of doing so. Okay, there's lots of other ways. Okay, we can mobilize those mechanisms through dietary interventions, through tonic foods, through longevity foods, through detoxification mechanisms, through meditation, through spiritual practices. Kayakalpa isn't a one-trick pony. It uses a multifactorial model that calls upon lots of different practices and approaches. And on Thursday's session, I'm going to explore the whole framework with you guys of what the whole thing looks like. But right at the heart and center, front and center of all of the Kayakalpic interventions is the herbal medicine and the herbal alchemy. To the extent that in the classical texts, the consensus is that you can't really mobilize the benefits of Kayakalpa without using herbal alchemy. Okay. Without using these mechanisms. And there's really good, everything we're going to talk about tonight, it's fascinating in that, yes, Kayakalpa says it works, and there's 4,000 years of usage to say it works, but the Western published clinical evidence that validates their ability to work is equally profound. And that's really important for me to emphasize that clinical evidence, because it gives us trust and faith in the ability of these herbs to do what we want them to do. Going back to the dawn of Kayakalpa, when Kayakalpa was first developed, the first practices that we used were plant medicines, herbal medicines. And there's good reason for that, in as much as herbal medicines have an unrivaled ability to regulate the physiology of the human body. Okay. Because they're concentrated packages of very chemically active constituent parts. And I've never come across anything that can regulate the physiology of the body in the way herbal medicines can. Foods can, but to a lesser extent. I think, lifestyle practices, vitamins, minerals, tonics, all these things can. But in terms of the actual ability to quickly, powerfully, discernibly regulate the body, plant-based medicines herbal medicines are unique, and the mechanisms by which they achieve that are clinically proven. Okay, and as an aside, that's why Kayakalpa is also very useful in managing ailments. If you're here and you're listening to this, and yes, you want to become young again, and yes, you want more youthful energy, but you also want help managing high blood pressure, or you've got, Alzheimer's risks, or you've got this, that, and the other. Kayakalpa can be used in different ways. It can be used to support youthfulness, but it can also be used to manage illness, prevent illness, reduce the risk factor for illness. And that's because these plant-based medicines have such a unique capacity to suppress the seeds of disease and manage disease. Okay, and I'll talk on next week. We've got a really important bonus session on how you can customize Kayakalpic herbal blends to take into account your familial risk factors. Okay, so if you've got lots of Alzheimer's in your family, or you've got lots of heart disease in your family, or lots of cancer in your family, ideally you want to tweak your herbal blends in a way that is loaded more into that risk factor. So the actual Kayakalpic blend that I take every day is very cancer specific, or not very cancer specific, but it's more skewed towards cancer, because I don't have much Alzheimer's in my family. I don't really have hardly any heart disease in my family, but quite a high prevalence of cancer. So statistically, it's more important for me to try and mitigate that risk. So my Kayakalpic formula is, yes, it's anti-aging, and yes, it does all of these things, but it has that affinity for cancer prevention, and everyone can do that. And before we get into the actual herbs, how to use them, how to blend them, what is herbal alchemy, it's just worth briefly touching on this concept of rasayanas or rasayanas. Okay, I spoke about them briefly yesterday. So there's different pronunciations. Rasayana is one pronunciation. Rasayana is another. I use rasayana. Rasayanas are labeled as a classification of herbs that destroy aging and disease. Okay, that's their conceptual translation. A rasayanic herb is that which destroys aging and disease. Okay, no, you haven't got to take notes, Rachel. You'll get all the recordings from this. Okay, and rasayana is made up of two words, rasa and yana. Okay, and rasa translates as kind of the sap of life, or the elixir of youth. And any herbs that are rasayanic, they increase the levels of rasa in the body. And that's said to engender youthfulness, energy, disease resistance, vitality, all the things we want here. Okay, but if we then contextualize that from the Western science, what do we see? We see exactly the same thing, because when Ayurveda and Kayakalpa talks about rasayanas and rasa is the lymph, okay, the lymphatic system, the lymphatic tissue, and the immune response. And, going back 20 years ago, the lymphatic system was kind of thought of as being just this very simple system of the body that clears out rubbish. Whereas we now know that the lymphatic system is kind of the foundation of health in the body. We know it is profoundly important upon our immune function. We know it helps regulate inflammation. We know it impacts upon hormone regulation. It's the lymphatic system is what keeps us strong and youthful. If you're looking tired, if you're getting infections, if you're exhausted, your lymphatic system will be compromised. Okay, so when Ayurveda talks about rasayanas as being these herbs that build rasa, build this elixir of youth, this sap of life, we can translate that into the Western kind of parlance as it's an immune, energy, vitality, disease-resistant tonic. Okay, they're saying the same things, and all of the herbs or most of the herbs that Kayakalpa presses into service, including the ones we're going to talk about today, are all labelled as rasayanic herbs. So they're strengthening, they're energizing, they're revitalizing, they're immune stimulating, they're disease preventing, they're tonics. Okay, but when we're using herbs, so we've got triphala, we've got turmeric, we've got ashwagandha, we've got our amla here, which I'll talk about on a separate session. We've got all these herbs, okay, and we can use them in a very simple way. We can just say, I'm going to take 2 capsules of ashwagandha, okay. But Kayakalpa doesn't use herbs in single format. It always uses herbal alchemy, okay? And herbal alchemy is present in Western medicine. All alchemy means is where you combine elements to get a bigger gain. So, for example, if you're using one prescription drug to lower blood pressure and it doesn't work quite well enough, if you add in a second drug, you get a much bigger gain because each drug brings its own benefit, but when you combine them, you get an additional benefit. That's just alchemy. When Kayakalpa uses herbal alchemy, it's about using multiple herbs and combining them and blending them in a way where we get a synergistic response where the total gain received is bigger than the sum of the individual parts. Okay, so if you take herb 1, it's got all of these proven benefits. If you then add in herb 2, you get all of the benefits of that herb. If you add in herb 3, you get all of the benefits of that herb, which can be identified. But in addition to the 3 individual benefits, you get a collective benefit that isn't in any one herb, but only comes about through combining them. Okay. There's a sutra here I wrote down quickly from one of the older texts, which says the blending of herb 1 with herb 2 creates a third reality, which is absent from both, but comes about via the alchemy between the two. Okay, so the blending of herb 1 with herb 2 creates a third reality, which is absent from both, but comes about via the alchemy between the two. So yeah, Liz, it's exactly the same as synergy. This is herbal synergy, where the total gain is bigger than the sum of the individual parts. And the impact of this is so profound. And in Kayakalpa, you never use single herbs. You would never just say, okay, this is a rasayana, take that every day. Okay, because you're missing 50% at least of the benefits you can obtain. And there's lots of, an example that most of you will probably have heard of is you think about turmeric. Turmeric, we're going to talk about turmeric now. Turmeric is one of the most important herbs in Kayakalpa. It's one of the most researched herbs in Western medicine. It's got these benefits. But if you combine turmeric with black pepper, you get 1,000% more benefit. Okay, why? Because you get an alchemical response. You get a herbal alchemy response where the black pepper combines with the turmeric and you get a response that isn't found in either one. Okay, another great example, which is a big clinical study, was looking at what happens when you combine myrrh and boswellia. So myrrh is a very important Kayakalpic herb, potent anti-inflammatory, great for heart health. Boswellia is a very powerful painkiller, anti-inflammatory. So if you use myrrh for arthritis as an anti-inflammatory and painkiller, you get a phenomenal response. If you use boswellia on its own, you get a phenomenal response. If you combine myrrh and boswellia, you get about a 30% bigger response in terms of pain relief, anti-inflammation. Okay, herbal synergy. So when we're using Kayakalpa, we want to be pressing into service these benefits. We don't want to be missing out on herbal alchemy. It's madness. Okay, you get so much extra gain for hardly any extra effort. Okay, so I want to talk about these 4 herbs. Okay, and what they do briefly, and then most importantly, how to blend them, how to combine them, how to dose them, and how to use them. Okay, so the first herb, Triphala. Okay, some of you, anyone using Triphala or come across Triphala here? Anyone using it? So Triphala is, so tri meaning 3, phala meaning fruits. So Triphala isn't a single herb. Okay, it's a combination of 3 dried superfruits: amalaki, haritaki, and bibitaki, which sounds like, I always think they sound like characters from the Jungle Book. So Triphala is made up of 3 dried superfruits, okay, and it's integral to Kayakalpa, okay, because what we now know, to put this into perspective as well, there was a very powerful study looking at the effects of Triphala on extending the lifespan of fruit flies, okay, fruit flies, and that sounds really abstract and irrelevant to us, okay, but how's this for a statistic? Fruit flies have 70% the same genome as humans. So a fruit fly, their genome is 70% the same as us. And when you give fruit flies Triphala, they live on average, I think it was 2.5 days longer, which if you then correlate that to a human lifespan, bearing in mind a fruit fly I think lives like 4 days, if you correlate that to us, it worked out at 8.7 years increased lifespan, okay, which is is profound, okay. So very clear evidence around how Triphala can impact upon longevity. And that research has now shown, again, referring back to what we spoke about last night, what do we know? We know Triphala increases stem cell production, helps the body repair age-related decline. We know it increases telomere length, so it reverses genetic aging. It contains massive antioxidant levels. Okay, I'm going to talk about antioxidants on one of the bonus sessions. Okay, so Triphala is integral to Kayakalpa. It's also an immune tonic. It's a gut tonic. It's a probiotic. It's got all these benefits. Okay, Triphala, absolutely integral. The next herb I want to talk about, and these aren't the only herbs in Kayakalpa. These are the herbs I want to talk about because they're the most generalizable. On Thursday and Tuesday, I'll talk about how we can customize it a bit. Okay, so first herb we're going to be using is Triphala. The second herb is ashwagandha. Okay. To me, it's I'm a herb geek. I love herbal medicines. I've researched herbal medicines for over a decade. I love everything about them. Of all of the herbs in the world, ashwagandha is my absolute favorite. Okay, it's the promise of Kayakalpa wrapped up in one herb. Okay, and so ashwagandha from the Sanskrit translates as the scent of a stallion. And on the one hand, that's because it's got quite a musty, horsey smell. But on the other hand, it's more as an example that when we take it, it gives us that virility, that vitality that we would associate with a young, pure-blooded stallion. Okay, and I love that analogy. It's called the king. It's called the king of Ayurvedic medicine. It's one of the most important herbs in Kayakalpa. The research leaves no debate. Okay, we know it's one of the most powerful stimulants of stem cells, secondary only to amla. Okay, we know it significantly increases ashwagandha stem cells. It's clinically proven to lengthen telomeres, so to reverse genetic aging. It's one of the most powerful anti-inflammatories, so suppresses the... I'll get to everyone asking about side effects and contraindications. I'll talk about those in a minute, okay? Joe, I've been taking this for 3 months now. My sleep is much better and energy levels are amazing. Okay, fantastic. I'll talk about dosing in a minute, Sarah. Nikki, cancer meds. I'll talk about all of the contraindications and drug interactions for using this in a second. Okay, so I'll pause on that question if I can. So ashwagandha works on all of the four mechanisms we spoke about last night in terms of what has to happen to reverse aging. But it's got more, okay? Because they're things we don't necessarily experience straight away. If our body, if you say you're 4 weeks into taking Kayakalpa and your stem cells are increasing, you might not recognize that straight away in terms of how you feel. What I love about ashwagandha is like Joe's just said in her comment, what I love about ashwagandha is the discernible impact it gives you, okay? Because ashwagandha is an energy and vitality tonic herb, okay? What we know is that it increases something called ATP, okay, which is adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy currency in the body. So if you're feeling tired or you're feeling fatigued or flat, it's probably because you don't have enough ATP. If you increase ATP, you feel more youthful, more vitalized, more energized. Ashwagandha does that. Okay, so it's an energy tonic. It increases energy, increases immunity, it increases stamina, it increases muscular strength. It's anabolic, which means it's a strengthening tonic herb. It's clinically proven to buffer stress. It increases mood states. It neutralizes anxiety. It's the perfect antidote to the stresses and strains of Western living, okay, in all of the chaos that's around us. It's unique and it's integral to Kayakalpa, absolutely integral. So that's the second herb, okay. The third herb is turmeric, okay, and you can either use turmeric juice, which I use a lot, or you can use turmeric powder, or you can just use bog standard turmeric from the supermarket, okay. I'm sure everyone here is aware of turmeric. It's botanically speaking the most powerful botanical anti-inflammatory yet identified. It's clinically proven as an anti-inflammatory. So in terms of suppressing that inflammaging that we spoke about yesterday, then nothing comes close to it. Okay, it strengthens the liver. Okay, increases stem cells. No, this is turmeric, Nikki. This is not curcumin. Okay, it's not curcumin. Okay, we're talking about whole turmeric here. Okay, you can use it long term, Hayley. You can use it indefinitely in Kayakalpic doses. Okay, you can use these. I've been using my Kayakalpic blend for about 30 years, 20. I can't even remember, but so you can use these indefinitely. Okay, so we've got four herbs: triphala, ashwagandha, turmeric, and amla. Okay, and black pepper. Okay, all of which mobilize those four anti-aging mechanisms. Okay, we just now need to know how to use it. Okay, and it's worth just emphasizing the importance of black pepper. Okay, because whenever we're using turmeric, we must use black pepper. In Kayakalpa, black pepper is called yoga vahi, which means it's able to carry herbal compounds to anywhere else in the body. Okay, it opens up the channels and it carries all of the things we want into the body to work more effectively. Okay, so really, really key. Okay, so in terms of how we use it, you can just blend them. Okay, but ideally, when you're using Kayakalpic herbal alchemy, it's worth grinding them before you use it, even if they're pre-ground. So we've got this little small kind of mortar and pestle, which is we use purely for Kayakalpa. We just use it in the morning. And even if you have a ground up herb, okay, so that's a triphala capsule, so it's very finely ground. Okay, if you swallow that as it is, it's going to work incredibly well. You're going to absorb it. But if you open that, so if you separate the capsules like that, can you see that? And you pour it into a bowl, and then you grind it, the bioavailability of the compounds found within that herb, even though it's already ground, is about 30% higher. Okay, because you'll smell it. If you grind any pre-ground herb and you keep on grinding it, you will smell more and more smell. It's because you're breaking it down further. You're making it more bioavailable. So when it goes into the body, more of the chemical constituents, the active parts, are mobilized, so you get a bigger gain. So you don't have to grind them. Some days I don't do it if I'm in a rush, but most mornings I will I will grind my Kayakalpic herbs. Okay, so what that would look like, okay, in terms of what you need to do. So imagine you've got the herbs in front of you. I don't know who's got the herbs. Let me know if you've got the herbs. So you would take 1 capsule of ashwagandha. This is the best way of doing it. I'll give you a simpler way in a second. So you take 1 capsule of turmeric rather, okay, open it up. So you just pull them apart. So just separate it and then pour that into your little bowl. Then your 1 capsule of ashwagandha, pull it apart, separate it, pour it into the bowl, and then again with the triphala. Okay, so then in there, you've got 1 capsule of turmeric, 1 capsule of triphala, and 1 capsule of ashwagandha. And then all you do is just for 30 seconds, it doesn't need to be laborious. Okay, just give it a really, really quick grind like that. Okay. And you can smell it. I couldn't smell that before I started grinding them. Now I've just ground that for what? 10 seconds. And the aroma coming off that is immense. Okay. If you've got turmeric juice, I'll talk about that in a second. Okay. So grind that just for 30 seconds. That's all it takes. Okay. And then you've got 2 options. One, you can just pour that, okay, straight into a little bit of water. So straight in. And give it a mix and swallow it down. Okay, I haven't used black pepper in that because this one's got black pepper in it. Okay, the turmeric, the Fuji turmeric has black pepper in it. But if I didn't have black pepper in it, I would use about 1/8 of a teaspoon, so kind of the size of, you know, a decent pinch. Okay, classically it's called a 360 grind of a grinder is how they try to standardize it. For those of you who've got liquid turmeric, okay, all you would do is take 1 capsule of your ashwagandha, put that into the bowl, 1 capsule of your triphala, put that into the bowl, then grind it, okay, and then pour that into 30 mils of the turmeric juice. Okay, so if you've got the turmeric juice, pour 30 mils of the turmeric juice into a glass, then pour your Kayakalpic ground, you know, herbs into the turmeric, add a good grind of black pepper, and then drink that down. Okay, so if you've got liquid turmeric, you can do it that way. If you've got powdered turmeric, do it the first way. Okay, yes, you can also add that into smoothies. You can add that into your smoothies, into kind of other drinks like the Ojas tonic, things like that. Okay, and that dose there, that typically you do that once a day. Okay, you do that in the morning. Okay, good question, Layla. So if you want a bigger gain, you're more proactively trying to target this. You would want to do it on an empty stomach, so about ½ hour before eating. Okay, because it's going to be absorbed into the blood more quickly. If you're kind of okay and just looking to maintain that, you can have it with food. Okay, to do that once a day every morning. So like I say, I've been using my Kayakalpic formula for probably, I don't know, 20 years almost. And it has changed as I've got older and my needs have changed. It has changed, but not massively. That's still the ashwagandha, turmeric, triphala, and amla is still the foundation. I've just got some additional herbs in there, Kayakalpic herbs, to take into account the kind of the cancer risks in my family. And I'll talk about how you can individualize your Kayakalpic blend on the Tuesday session, one of the sessions next week. Okay. So once in the morning, and you can do that indefinitely. You can do that for the rest of your life with no risks of side effects or interactions because the dose of any individual herb is too small. Okay. Have you also a blend for OCD? Yeah. There's not the beauty of Kayakalpa. You know, and we're obviously scratching the surface here. When we look at the full Kayakalpic blueprint on Thursday, we can individualize this however we want. So if you've got OCD, if you've got hair loss, if you've got cyclical mouth ulcers, if you've got high blood pressure, if you've got pre-diabetes, you can customize your Kayakalpic blend to take that into account. Okay, so the amla juice, the reason I don't want to talk about the amla juice is that I'll have to rush it because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Amla is the king herb of Kayakalpa. Okay, it's the most important herb because of what it does, specifically around stem cells, but most importantly around a pathway we haven't covered yet, which is called the superoxide pathway, which is a really sinister, disease-forming, kind of aging kind of mechanism in the body. And if we're serious about becoming young again, we have to neutralize that pathway, and nothing does it like Amla. Okay, so I'll show you so you can integrate that into this. Okay, so when you're actually doing it, so by the end of Tuesday for the next session, you'll know what this does, the evidence behind it, and how to combine it into your morning Kayakalpic routine. Okay, and obviously it sounds a lot because we're talking about it. We've been talking, we're 30 minutes now. I'll wrap up in a minute. We've been talking about this for half an hour, but it sounds like a lot. But in reality, that takes about a minute, 60 seconds. You get up, you separate your capsules, you grind it for 30 seconds, you pour it into your water or your turmeric juice, you use your Amla, and then you're done. And then you go out into the day and you've given your body essentially a shot of youthfulness in terms of how you feel, in terms of the way your body's working, in terms of your immunity. It has a profound impact upon things like winter infections, immune strength, mood. It transforms how your day unfolds. Okay. I just want to quickly run through safety. Okay. So Triphala is incredibly safe. Okay. But don't, if you're prone to diarrhea or loose stools or explosive bowel movements, don't use Triphala. Okay. That's the only real thing you need to be aware of, with Triphala. Okay, yeah, so Joe, turmeric there's a couple of really important ones for turmeric. If you are taking, if you're on any kind of cancer drug, if you're on hormone suppressing drugs, if you're on tamoxifen, if you're on chemotherapeutic drugs, if you're on hormone drugs, immunotherapy drugs, actually for the sake of safety, if you're on any cancer drugs, don't use concentrated turmeric outside of culinary use without getting explicit sign-off from your consultant. Okay, so that's absolutely key. Ashwagandha, if you are taking high-dose thyroid drugs, so if you're taking kind of levothyroxine at 150 kind of dose, then you can't use high-dose ashwagandha alongside it, but we're only using kind of about 300 to 500 milligrams. And that wouldn't be contraindicated because it's such a small dose. Remember, Kayakalpa is looking at the long game. It's playing the long game. It's using a small dose every day over months, years, decades. So we can use smaller doses. And for me, and if you've got any specific questions around using these herbs, let me know on the Facebook page. Any that I'm missing now, I'll go through. Okay, but just quickly to emphasize the significance of this, in that I have got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lab reports from people that I've used Kayakalpa on in virtually every setting you can imagine to make them feel more youthful, to reverse physiological signs of aging, in people who've been ruined through no fault of their own, through things like chemotherapy. They're really damaged through chemotherapy. And I've got lab reports from before they started Kayakalpa all the way through to kind of 4, 6, 12 months after starting Kayakalpa. And they are different people. Their immune markers, their inflammatory markers, their hormone profiles, their blood work, their gut health, they are different people. Okay. And I cannot, it's impossible for me to emphasize how different we experience our body and our mind when we are being supported by these kinds of herbal mechanisms, particularly when we begin to customize them for us as individuals. This is the best standard generic Kayakalpic formulation there is. But if you can then take that generic platform and individualize it for you, what you want to achieve in your appearance, in your body, in your mind, in your energy, then the sky's the limit. Okay. Any books? I don't think I've ever seen. There's no Western literature on Kayakalpa that I've ever come across. I'm very fortunate to have been mentored by someone who was kind of 7th generation lineage, a custodian of Kayakalpa, which is how I got all of this information. But actually, I've got a book coming out in February with a publisher in London, which is about Ayurveda for cancer. But the next book is going to be this. It's going to be Kayakalpa. So I'm hoping to break the stalemate of books in the West around around Kayakalpa. But anyway, so order your herbs. I know there's been lots of questions. I'll answer them. I'll answer them now once I finish the recording. I don't want to take up too much of your time. But if you've got any questions or concerns around how these relate to your circumstance, please message in the Facebook group and I'll get back to you. But please explore these herbs. Please use these herbs. Please harness them. Okay, they are profound. I'll let everyone go. Thank you so much again. Having 115 people here, it's just I'm so grateful. I'm so genuinely grateful for everyone showing up, being here, and just showing up every day. It means the world to me. So have a lovely evening, and I'll see you back at 7:30, not 7:45, 7:30 tomorrow evening for all things autophagy and fasting and diet. Okay, so see you then. Have a lovely evening. Cheers, guys.